Hello, everybody. Welcome to Vibecoding EHRs. And as builders, we're at a very special time in history. LLMs are becoming super powerful, and they're gaining the ability to code. They're advancing so fast, in fact, exponentially. And so it makes sense to learn about this topic today. And it's not too far-fetched to think that something as complicated as health record systems might be amenable to vibe coding in the very near future. So today at PlumCon, I'm pleased to invite two world experts, Kevin and David, here to the stage to discuss vibe coding EHRs. Kevin has a wealth of experience. He's designed multiple EHRs and hails from illustrious institutions like IDEO. And David is one of the few team members on the Medplum team who really has consumer experience and has developed very cool apps, including things like the Taco Bell app and Dunkin' Donuts app. So really impressive stuff. Take it away, Kevin and David.
Thanks, Rashma. I am Kevin Shaw. I'm a product designer on the team at Medplum. I'm the only kind of non-engineering staff member on the team, but I am not non-technical. So I've been exploring vibe coding and general agentic coding workflows. And most of this work is in service of our provider app, which I'm lucky enough to work on with David, who I'm joined by today.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello, I'm David. I work in the core engineering team here at Medplum. I took the vibe coded prototypes from Kevin, and I have worked in many large-scale products in the past, as mentioned by Rashma, such as the Dunkin' Donuts app and the Taco Bell app.
So just to get started, this was a vibe check we did live with our folks at Medplum, and the result of this were actually pretty interesting. So we asked the folks in the audience who has participated or has done vibe coding in the past, and the majority of folks that we invited actually raised their hands. And then we asked who has vibe coding something that they have pushed to prod, something they've actually put into production. And still about, probably 60-70% of folks still had their hands raised. So this is something that is still new. It's still kind of a new practice working with AI coding agents, but it's very much something that is happening in lots of places and is being pushed to prod, which is pretty exciting. If you are building your own kind of things, if you're vibe coding things, especially if you're putting things actually out into the world, I've been vibe coded, we'd love to see those projects. So please share them in a comment of this video or share them on our Medplum Discord. We'd love to hear about them. So what is vibe coding? So simply put, vibe coding is using an AI agent to generate code, usually from plain language, and then going back and forth with the AI agent. So putting in plain language like English as a prompt, and then getting back code from an AI in the form of a usable, workable product, and then reviewing what has been created, reprompting, and then going back and forth like that. And that sort of that's the vibe. So this term vibe coding was coined by a computer scientist named Andre Karpathy, who is an OpenAI co-founder and general AI expert. And he coined vibe coding just in a tweet from February of this year, where he said, there's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. And so you can see here an example of what that looked like. His tweet is a little bit longer, and he goes into the specifics of how he does it in his practice, but there's lots of variations on tooling that we'll talk about a little bit later. This is an example of Cursor, where you can see it's kind of a traditional code editor where we have an AI chat on the side here, and you can see put in a plain language text prompt at the top, and then you can see the AI kind of working and thinking and expanding its process to create the code that was generated here in green. So why now? So most of the AI models that exist on the market today are LLMs, which are large language models, of which have been trained on both natural language like English, as well as computer languages or computer programming languages. So they're really great about translating between those languages and interpreting those languages, as well as other kind of frameworks and systems, things like Fire that we use in healthcare. They've also been trained on things like open source repositories like Medplum. And so people have also taken these models and have now built tools around them. So things like Cursor that I shared before, as well as lots of other ones that I'll share a little bit later. So that's sort of where we exist with our current context. So what's next? LLMs have mostly evolved exponentially. So depending on how you measure it, they have gotten a lot better to the point where some of the guidelines that we shared today and some of the things we talk about today may be less relevant in the future. Ideally, we're always doing more with less. So we'll see how good they get. So this quote that I think is really important, this comes from Eric Schultz at Anthropic, and he built on Andre Karpathy's on one of his main vibe coding tenets, which is forget that the code exists, he's built this, but not that the product exists. So I think it's really important that as we are vibe coding, we don't forget that we are building a product. And the code isn't just code. Code is a product. It's just software for people. And so we can't lose sight of the actual product experience that we're creating for people, regardless of what code is being generated. So if you know, Plum builds products. We maintain a Medplum app, which is an administrative app that you can use to manage your Medplum projects. So all of your resources, access policies, bots, and things like that. We also have a provider app, which is a basic but certified EHR that is basically a provider-friendly front end that you can use to manage all of your patient data. We also have a React component library that is a set of components that we use to build the Medplum app and provider app, and that you can use kind of off the shelf to build all of your other applications on top of Medplum. And they're also, this is a great system for Vibecoding with, which David will talk a little more about now. We'll hand it over.
As we know, we use LLMs to live code, and LLMs are perfect for React and Fire. React is one of the most popular frameworks out there, and LLMs take full advantage of all the code written in React. Fire provides a consistent data structure that LLMs can work with. LLMs perform better with well-organized data. All of this makes Medplum the ultimate open source LLM-friendly platform. We're 100% open source. Our apps are built using TypeScript and React, and we store all of our data in Fire format. LLMs combined with Medplum make the perfect duo for Vibecoding. As Kevin mentioned, we have our products such as Dot Provider and the component library that LLMs can use as a reference. We also have example projects that LLMs can use as a reference. And because we have direct Fire storage, it means there is no complex data transformation. It is all TypeScript as well and Fire. This represents a great opportunity in history, as anyone in any team with any idea can clone a repo and start prompting to get working prototypes right in the browser. But it can become tricky as LLMs attempt to solve complex problems by fetching multiple resources. For example, building a communications-based application, an LLM may want to fetch all communications in order to build that inbox. That would be a very expensive inbox. How do we do it? Here at Medplum, we use Cursor with agent mode to vibe code. We start prompting our ideas, creating functional prototypes from static designs. We test the results directly in the browser, and depending on what we get, we may provide more prompts. But it's not all vibes. If we see a change that can be done directly in the code, like a config or a font or size change, we will do it so directly in the code rather than requesting the LLM to change it. Once we're happy with the working prototype, we would hand it off to an engineer to make it production ready.
So here's a quick look at the tooling landscape that exists currently. So there are general purpose LLMs, like your kind of vanilla Cloud or ChatGPT, that you just go to their website and you can make something in their kind of sandbox there. There's no code or low code vibe tools like Lovable, V0. There's IDEs or like traditional kind of code editors like Cursor or Windsurf that just have AI built into them. And there's command line agents like Client and Cloud Code, which work directly in terminal. Then there's model context protocols or MCPs, which basically link in your data and other apps that kind of exist external to wherever you're using your AI. And so we actually maintain a Medplum MCP that you can use in your projects, which you can link into Claude or ChatGPT or Cursor or wherever MCPs can be integrated. And just in general, we use Cursor and Cloud Code just for our project internally, just because we like that they are a repository first. We can link directly to our Medplum repository and work with them locally, as well as review the code and edit and access the code pretty easily. So here's an example of using the Medplum MCP with Claude, just talking about Claude.ai. This are the prompts that we just kind of made up directly for this example. It says, I'm a metabolic health doctor and would like to see an overview of Frodo's data tailored to the specialty. I already established that Frodo Baggins is the patient, and then I put in this prompt, and you can see it's kind of looking at the Medplum server and finding that data and outputting it as like this kind of dashboard of values, which is pretty exciting to see. And so that's just a single one-shot prompt that kind of gets you to a pretty cool metabolic dashboard just directly within Claude. So you can use that. You can just work within Claude and actually just reference your patient data from there. But you can also like link into things like Cursor. And so here's an example of actually making a standalone page directly within the Medplum provider app with this kind of metabolic health dashboard. And so you can see I gave it the exact same prompt and just added, create a new unlisted standalone page and a provider app project for this overview and use the existing Medplum Patterson components. I probably didn't even need to do that because it probably would have done that already, but I just wanted to make sure that it right for this example. But again, this is like a one-shot kind of prompt, and you can see the output of that, which is pretty nice. And it pulls in, all of Frodo's like past labs and all those different levels. And it's kind of a nice little overview here. If I was a metabolic doctor, it'd be nice to have. So here's an example directly from our provider app. So this component that piloted here is we call it the patient summary sidebar. And if you had looked at this earlier this year, you would see exactly what you see here, which is some of the values here. And these sections are just using badges and everything's in all caps. There's no metadata attached to them or very little. And it's kind of a lot of information. And we also have quite a bit of white space at the top. You have the avatar and also the only centered component we had in the entire app. And so we went through and did kind of a pass on this to kind of clean this up and make this a better experience for providers. And so I'll just jump to an example of what that looked like. So this is what we have either. This is a prototype, and you see it's on my local host here. And you can see we've kind of cleaned up this avatar space, a lot more condensed. We put some of the important kind of demographic information up top here. And then we have these kind of like sections that can be collapsed and shown as, and then able to kind of click into these to see those kind of individual resources. And you can see we also are adding some metadata like status and important dates. And some of these we're able to click in and actually edit those directly or add new ones directly from this patient summary sidebar. So this is a prototype that we built. And then here's what's live today on our provider app Medplum. So if you go and just create a new account on Medplum and start using our provider app, this is what you see, which is not so different. It's very similar actually. And so this is how we have kind of gone through and Vibecoded a prototype and then pulled that through to production just by kind of cleaning that up on the back end. But you can see that's kind of accelerated our process and kind of refining this patient summary sidebar. And so here's just a quick example of how we do something like this. So initially we create a prompt. This is a very detailed prompt that we created with AI. And I'm going back and forth to basically create a product requirements document. So this is to create a new dashboard for a start page on the Medplum provider app to include a few different columns, one with messages, one with tasks, and one with patients. And so here's just a quick video that shows putting in the prompt here, and then we'll just let the agent go. And so you can see it's like looking at all of our existing files like this in our Medplum repository, going through and thinking and starting to build out some pieces, pulling in components from other sections. You can see it's writing pages, it's trying to build the project, and then it gets an error, and then it resolves the error over here, and then eventually like output, showing me exactly what it did, saying here are the specs that you gave me, and here's what I built. And then you can see here is the result of that. So you see it built this nice start section here. We have our 3 columns. We have our latest messages, open tasks, and patients. This is pretty nice. It's just like a one-shot kind of result from a prompt. And so this is all kind of clickable and takes us into those individual sections. And there's kind of like minimal issues. There's probably like, obviously clean up those animations and some of the UI and everything, but functionally it is like very close to what I asked it to do. So you see just how quickly that can be done. So a couple of shout outs. One's Albert Wong, who is a member of the Medplum community who has created a tool called Progress Notes as an EHR and a scribe for therapists. He has an interesting background as a clinician and has a bit of a technical background as well. But he told us at PlumCon that he built this pretty much 90% with Vibecoding. So that's really cool to see. And then also shout out to Evil Martians, who are a great dev tools agency who really influenced our thinking about this and are a great partner to have for thinking about Vibecoding. Thanks.